I called on President Biden to give immediate answers. In the letter, I raised questions such as, how did Hagos enter the United States? How did Hagos get to North Carolina? Did he travel by air, interstate, or rail? Are there other places that he's been in our state, that he's traveled to or through? And should those areas be on heightened alert? Last week in Gates County, North Carolina, an armed illegal immigrant was arrested who is on the federal terrorist watch list. His name is Eure Hagos. Reports indicate that Hagos came into the United States from Haiti, but is originally from an area near Yemen, a known hotbed of terrorist activity. Police were called to the scene after reports of shots fired, and when deputies moved in to apprehend him, Hagos attempted to disarm a deputy before fleeing. It took law enforcement over 4 hours to finally apprehend him. After learning of this incident, I spoke with Sheriff Ray Campbell of Gates County. I was briefed by him on the situation and thanked him for honorably discharging his duties and for the courageous actions of his deputies. More importantly, I promised I would do everything I could to assist him. At this time, the suspect is currently being held and has been charged with 3 counts of assault on a government official, 3 counts of resisting a public officer, 1 count of carrying a concealed weapon. The Gates County Sheriff's Office currently has 12 deputies, yet they find themselves dealing with a violent illegal immigrant that our own national security has flagged as a potential terrorist threat. Earlier this morning, my office sent a letter to President Biden. I called on President Biden to give immediate answers. In the letter, I raised questions such as, how did Hagos enter the United States? How did Hagos get to North Carolina? Did he travel by air, interstate, or rail? Are there other places that he's been in our state, that he's traveled to or through? And should those areas be on heightened alert? Is he alone? Are there others we should be watching for? Why is Hagos on the terrorist watch list? What organizations does he have ties to? What is his motive and his training? Mr. Hagos reportedly applied for and was denied citizenship. Why? President Biden, when Hagos was denied citizenship, who was alerted of his presence? Did the federal government report this to the state? Did the federal government report any of his activity to local law enforcement? Are there more illegal immigrants on the terrorist watch list here in North Carolina? We deserve answers to these questions. Over the last few years, North Carolina has seen multiple attacks on our infrastructure. We've experienced a cyber attack on the natural gas pipeline, and we've had multiple power substation attacks. Hagos was living just an hour from multiple military installations, both in North Carolina and Virginia. It's imperative that we know immediately if he had known terrorist ties or whether he's been in contact with any associates thereof. We need to know if there are any imminent dangers to the citizens of North Carolina. The silence from the Biden administration on this situation is not an isolated incident. Not even our elected officials in Congress or the Senate have been able to get any answers from him. Last week, members of our federal delegation wrote a letter demanding answers regarding a migrant housing facility in Greensboro. They received no information from the Biden administration, despite this facility going online just in the last few days. There are reports that this migrant facility in Greensboro will house around 800 immigrants from 13 to 17 years old. This facility deserves a high level of scrutiny, and we deserve answers. This is not because we fear some hypothetical tragedy, but because we have experienced it. 2 years ago, right here in Wake County, a deputy was murdered by illegal immigrants. It was reported that one of those 3 suspects was first apprehended by ICE as a minor. He later managed to cross back again into the United States from Mexico. Under Joe Biden's administration, over 7 million individuals have entered our nation illegally. And it's estimated that roughly 500,000 illegal immigrants are here in North Carolina. And we have very little information about these individuals. The federal government has refused to give answers. There have been very little coordination with local elected officials and law enforcement. So I have a message for President Biden. Mr. President, next week you will be here in our state, and we deserve answers. Our police and law enforcement deserve support, transparency, and information. Mr. President, for you to keep our state in the dark about an armed illegal who is on the terrorist watch list from an area near Yemen is not only wrong, it's dangerous. And the people of this great state deserve better.